is, particularly in the US, there's been a whole bunch of people and commentators talking about the fake alien invasion. Even Michio Kaku has been talking about, yeah, maybe we could use a fake alien invasion to kickstart the economy. Or maybe we could use a fake alien invasion to threaten people who think that global warming isn't real. So what we've seen is a whole bunch of articles talking about the fake alien invasion, which is, you know, really perhaps part of the mindscaping again. This is that wonderful poster in London, secure beneath the watchful eyes. And somebody asked me about this. Of course, this is, you know, what I exposed in 2007. But, you know, here we have the very clear statement that the London 2012 Olympics are the Zion Olympics. If you haven't seen that before, then and you want to see the full presentation, it's in a DVD called Fool Me Once from the middle of 2007. But I mean, the fake alien invasion thing is not original. I mean, it's been being talked about from that document, the right-wing think tank document produced in the 1960s. Werner von Braun was talking about it in 1974. He said that, you know, the last card that these guys play to establish their global government will be the fake alien invasion. And then there's this superb book. It's Behold a Pale Horse by William Cooper, which he wrote in 1990. And in that book, Bill Cooper makes this observation. He says, can you imagine what would happen if Los Angeles is hit with a 9.0 quake, New York City is destroyed by a terrorist-planted atomic bomb, World War III breaks out in the Middle East, the banks and the stock markets collapse, extraterrestrials land on the White House lawn, food disappears from the markets, some people disappear, the Messiah presents himself to the world, all in a very short period of time. Do you want to start ticking them off? He continues, he says, can you imagine the world power structure can and will, if necessary, make some or all of these things happen to bring about their new world order? And he was writing that in 1991. Of course, it was the 11th of September 1991 that George W. Bush gave his infamous New World Order speech. When we're successful, and we will be, smug bastard. And then, of course, Gordon Brown, the phrase New World Order just rolled off his tongue. He mentioned it for the first time in the speech he gave in India on January 2007, 2008, 2007. And on May the 15th of that year, he gave a speech to the Confederation of British Industry. And in that speech, he uses the phrase New World Order, or a version of it, no less than 17 times. It just rolls off the tongue. Superb book. Bill Cooper was assassinated on November the 6th, 2001 by the Arizona State Police for supposedly resisting arrest, but more likely because he'd accurately predicted what was about to happen on 9/11. And he was starting to draw people's attention to the fact that he had predicted exactly what was going to happen. He hadn't got the date necessarily right, but he knew it was coming. Anyway, November the 6th, 2001, he was assassinated. But something's about to kick in, literally in the next few weeks. And we're about to enter a period of massive solar activity. And some of you will know that in addition to my research in deep geopolitics, also for the past 15 years, I've also been researching the knowledge and the wisdom that's held, retained by the indigenous peoples around the planet. In fact, in the 6 months prior to 9/11, I was in Central America studying Mayan mythology and Mayan cosmology, and last year I went to Peru to spend some time with the Quero, a group of people that came out of the high Andes just 40 odd years ago. Everybody thought they'd been murdered by the conquistadors 400 years ago, because they'd been chased into the mountains and the conquistadors came out and the Quero didn't. The Quero had been living at 16,500 feet in the high Andes. And they came out in the early 1960s. The reason they came out, they said, was because they had some information that they felt they needed to share with the people of the lower world. Anybody living below 16,500 feet? With the people of the lower world at this time. And one of the key elements of what they wanted to share was that in the period between October of 2011 and May of 2013, this massive solar activity that's going to kick in will totally change the way in which we live. It's totally going to change the way in which we relate to the world around us. If you Google solar storms and NASA, what you'll find is that the head of NASA earlier this year put out a video broadcast, all NASA employees, encouraging the NASA employees to think very carefully about how they and their families will deal with a situation where everything crashed, where the phone systems crashed, the ATM systems crashed, maybe even automobiles stopped working. Now this is a NASA, and this is not a spoof, this is a genuine management statement to NASA employees. So I knew that the Quero had been talking about this because I read a lot of Alberto Villolo's work, and he's an anthropologist who's been working with the Quero for the best part of 40 years. But I wanted to go hear what they had to say really for myself. And their observation is, their comment is that, yeah, that may happen, but so what? Because the real issue is what the Quero believe, and they're not the only ones, by the way, I just happened to draw on the Quero, but you know, the Maori have a very similar belief, the Maori of New Zealand. What they believe is that the solar storms, the solar activity that's about to kick in, is going to trigger what we have been told is junk DNA. And it's going to completely change everything. It's going to completely change the way in which we perceive reality. And the Quero make the observation that some people won't survive this because it's going to be such a shock to their worldview that they just won't be able to handle it and they'll have a corridor. But for those people who are prepared to embrace the change, I mean, it's going to, you know, potentially, it's going to be absolutely massive. But the Quero say that, you know, we have to actually participate in this process. And we have to participate in two ways. One is, they say, we might be wrong. It might not happen. It's been passed down through the generations. We believe it will happen because every other prophecy we've been given has come about. But it might be beholden on everybody. It's absolutely beholden on everybody to work as though the change wasn't going to happen. So we've got to actively participate in trying to bring about the changes that we feel we want to see, assuming that we're just going to carry on down this existing paradigm. We can't just sit back and say, well, actually, I'm just going to sit around and wait for solar storms. Because if it doesn't happen, we've got a problem. But they say that's not enough. The other thing that we have to do to contribute to this process is that we have to visualize, they use the word dream, direct translation, but visualize is, I think, really what they're really getting at. We have to visualize the type of future that we want to see. You know, because everything that we've got going on right now is not sustainable. Everything we look at, you know, whether it's just the finance situation, whether it's the ecology of the planet, everything, it doesn't matter which direction we go, it's not sustainable. Something has to change. So their point is that we have to find time to sit quietly, not necessarily get into deep meditation, but just think, just put out there and visualize the type of future that we want to see. And they make an interesting caveat. They say we must do that, but we must not have an existential commitment to that particular outcome. The reason being is that we may not actually be capable of perceiving the opportunity that is about to be presented to us. It may be of such an enormous magnitude that if we actually have too much of a commitment to the particular future that we're visualizing, we may actually be limiting that opportunity. Now look at what's happening around us. You know, more and more people are starting to realize that things ain't going down too well right now. You know, what we are potentially leaving our children and grandchildren as a legacy doesn't bear thinking about. I mean, what the attitude is of you know, our children and grandchildren a few, 50, 60, 100 years down the road doesn't even bear thinking about. So, you know, we've got an opportunity. I think we've really got an opportunity here, but we've got to participate in that process. That's why I call this period the shift. Because something is shifting. We can't explain it through reductionist Newtonian science, but we can sense it. And most of us, we might experience it in different ways, but we're all experiencing things that can't be explained by reductionist Newtonian science. That's part of the change. It's part of what the Quero are talking about. It's not necessarily going to happen overnight. It's a gradual process. We might experience something we can't explain, we shrug it off. Then it happens again. Then we think it's a remarkable coincidence because it happened 3 times. Well, you know, maybe it's an opportunity. Think about how we can use that. Rudolf Steiner, 100 years ago, nearly, said, "He who would create the new must be able to endure the passing of the old in full tranquility." Now, the reason I include this statement, first of all, I think Steiner was an extremely prescient guy, considering he was around 100 years ago. But this latched into something that the Quero said as well, because when I asked them the question, I said, so when this opportunity comes, will it be available to everybody? And they laughed. The group I was talking to just laughed. And when they stopped laughing, they explained to me, they said, yes, it is available to everybody, but not everybody's going to take it, because some people are going to say, oh, I've just got to go back for my phone, or my computer, or my wallet. They said, you know, the opportunity is to step into something that's way beyond that. Way beyond that. So, anybody who tells you they know what's coming, well, it's delusional. You know, what we've got to do is just get ourselves into the mindset where we can roll with whatever comes along. And look at it as an opportunity, rather than as a barrier. I think we're in for a very, very exciting ride. You know, and in reality, when life is just trucking along, when there's nothing really significant happening, we're not living, we're existing. It's only when the shift really hits the fan, you know, when something comes along and smacks us around the side of the face, whether it's, you know, relationship issues, financial issues, career issues, health issues, when we actually have to really step a walk, you know, and actually got to reflect on what's going on around us and along with our life, that's when we're starting to live. That's when we're getting the experience. You know, there's a wonderful piece of Zen Tibetan wisdom that says that the greatest contribution that anyone can offer for the soul development of another is to be their enemy. So consider the possibility that these socio-psychopathic global corporatists are actually doing us a massive favour. Because if it hadn't been for 9/11, I wouldn't be standing here right now. Here's a new play on an old thing. The beginning is near. And by God, I'm looking forward to it. Thank you very much. Leaving Birkenhead, hopefully I'll get the opportunity to come back and we'll see where we've come from, see where we're going. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Ian, very much. Testimony to Ian is that he has actually achieved 5,000 Facebook friends recently. What do you think about that, Ian? You've done a second page, so is it Ian Crane too?
No, it's just Ian Crane.
It's just Ian Crane again. Okay then. Look, that is absolutely fabulous, because when I first became a friend of Ian, which was less than 12 months ago, did you have about, it's nearly doubled in 12 months, hasn't it? So that's absolutely fabulous. And if any of you feel the need to ask Ian to come and talk in your area, get in contact with him. It's not difficult. All you have to do is find a venue. Ian comes along, he provides the stuff, and have a word with him. It's very worthwhile, and we can spread the word, and we can really do something. So thank you all very much for coming tonight, and thank you to Ian.